Hello. Can you hear me? Oh, wow. Looking a little crazy with this mascara. Okay. Good. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Oh, yeah. That's starting to look better. Hey, Rachel. Hi. Okay. So today we are talking about Hold Me Tight by Dr. Sue Johnson. I typically read my fire tablet to show you the cover, but I picked it up and it was dead. So we'll have to be relying on my phone today. Hello, everybody. Hi. Hi, TW. Hi, Kutashi. I hope I'm saying that right. Hi, Jalen. Aw, thank you so much. She got these braids down. Let me tell you, my black girls in the chat, y'all know it takes braids, especially like individual knotless, can take a long time. She did it in 3 hours. I was shocked. Shocked. This is actually my first time ever getting individuals. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Janoli. Good to see you again. Hi, Lakeisha. Are you taking new patients? This is a great question. So, I am not accepting new patients, but also so you guys know, with the therapist, we can only practice in the state that we're licensed in. I'm licensed in Georgia, so I can only see residents of Georgia. So that's one misconception, is that I just can't see everybody. Thank you. My skin, thank you so much. The camera might be helping me out a little bit. I don't. Thank you so much. So thankful for the chat. Hi, Alicia. Hi, Jay. All right, got to move to Georgia. Yeah, I'm not accepting clients right now, but if I am accepting clients right now, I'm focusing on couples. So that's the main focus I've been doing right now, just to make sure that I'm still building in my couples practice. And that's what we're going to talk about today, couples work. Hi, there's so many of you in here. Abigail, Cheyenne, Naima. Hi, everybody. Hi, hi, hi. All right. So, first, let me talk about our next book in the club and some changes to the book club. So, a lot of you have been watching the content I've been doing with Twilight, breaking down the Twilight movies. I'm really loving that so many of you are coming from that and enjoying that content. That makes me so happy. I'm a huge Twilight fan, but I see the problems, especially as a therapist. Things are just glaringly obvious to me now that weren't obvious to me when I was younger. But in response to that, a lot of you have been asking that I review Hunger Games. I have seen the Hunger Games movies. I'm not sure if I've seen all of them, but I've actually never ever read the books. So, our next book for the book club will be The Hunger Games. So, very different from anything else we've done in this book club. But because I'm doing these reviews, breaking down the movies, and I don't like to do that without reading the books first, because you always get so much more information from the books. That will be our next read. So if you're interested in reading The Hunger Games, we're also going to give 2 months to get the book done instead of one, as we typically have. So that means that our next book club meeting will be the last Tuesday of October, which is oh no, that's Halloween. No, let's do the week before, because some people are going to be out. So let's do October 24th. That will be our next book club, October 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And oh yeah, Rich, I forgot you read all of those. Yes, love Twilight. Actually, you guys helped me so much in cranking out the Twilight content, because in our last book club meeting, you were telling me just go for it, make that content, we'll watch it, and you really did come through. So thank you so much. And I'm gonna move on to Hunger Games next. I think that's the thing that a lot of people are asking for. Okay. Oh, hi, Denise Brady, a fellow LMFT in the chat. Hi, Leslie, Samantha, Abigail, Iverson. In regards to e-reader, is the Nook better than the Kindle for something without a web browser? Mostly for sex therapy and marriage books. Just want your feedback. So I've actually never used the Nook, so I can't really speak to if it's a good tablet. I mean, I am a Kindle girl. I've had a Kindle since I was in college. That thing is always glued to my hands. I'm always constantly with the Kindle, and I've even bought a second Kindle Fire tablet. But as far as getting on a browser, I know that the Kindle Paperwhite is not good if you're trying to search on a browser. The Fire tablet, I would even say, is not the best. So if you're needing to go on, like on the internet, surf the web, maybe the Nook is a better fit. But there are probably some videos on here that'd be a better fit for you to give you an answer. Okay. Okay, great. Ashley, yeah, so we'll both be reading The Hunger Games for the first time, and then that way I can have all the background I need to do some breakdowns on that once I'm finished with Twilight. You guys, we're currently editing the Eclipse video. We were out of town. I'm not sure if I don't think I told you guys, but we were out of town. We actually went to Egypt last week. And so I'm very behind on content, but we do have the video filmed and we're almost done editing it. Hopefully we can get it out this week. If not this week, definitely early on next week for Eclipse. Okay, yes, welcome, Abigail. All right, so let's jump into my notes for Hold Me Tight. Hold Me Tight is a book by Dr. Sue Johnson. It's about emotionally focused therapy, which is a therapy that is focused on couples work. So, what I love about this approach is that she is thinking about attachment. So, we did read a book in the book club where we talked about attachment, the book Attached. We read that one, I think, back in January, actually, or December, January. And that book, it gave some insight. And people were saying, if you like that book, you should definitely read Hold Me Tight by Sue Johnson, because she's talking about how to use attachment theory to really improve your relationship, your current relationship, whereas Attached is more focused on dating. So my overall rating of this book, I would give it maybe like a 3.5, only because it's so repetitive. And, this is a common critique that I give a lot of these nonfiction or self-help books that we read, is that for a lot of them, they are just giving the same information over and over again. So what she's talking about for, I would say, the first 60% of the book is basically just starting to address the issues you're having in your relationship by being honest and expressive about the emotions that you're having. A lot of times we go into our defensive stance and we're trying to argue with our partner, or we're trying to critique our partner, instead of just saying, I need you to hold me. Personal example, I will tell my husband quickly, like, I just need a hug. Even if we've just gotten into a bit of a tat or an argument, I'll say to him, like, I really need a hug. And he never denies me those kind of things. So those things will create a certain security in your relationship, so that when you know that I'm just needing you to listen to me, or I feel abandoned when you don't answer your phone. That is really the core of this book, is trying to go past your defenses and share honestly how you're feeling with your partner, to give them an opportunity to meet your needs. And I think a lot of the people who are in her sessions were basically the partner didn't know how to meet the need. So she was kind of coaching them through, this is what it means to your partner when you do this, and this is how you can correct that behavior or change that behavior so that they don't feel abandoned by you. Let me check up on the chat a little bit. Can't wait for Eclipse. Jacob is so problematic in that one. Yes, Lindsay, he really is. I just hate how his character changes, but we will talk about that in that video. It's really annoying, the repetition. Yes, K10 is like, I'm reading this book and I'm like, geez, when are we going to move on to the next point? I don't think she got to a new point until she started talking about sex. That was when I finally was like, okay, you're talking about something different here, not the same things. But I'm going to just read to you some of my highlights from the book, just so that, we can, anybody who didn't read it, you can get kind of the gist of what we were talking about. Recognize and admit that you are emotionally attached to and dependent on your partner in much the same way that a child is on a parent for nurturing, soothing, and protection. So I want to ask you guys, have you ever struggled with communicating to your partner that you need them? if you've been in a relationship in the past or currently in a relationship, has it ever been difficult to first accept and communicate that you are dependent on them? I'm very curious if that is something you guys have ever struggled with. I think for me, that's been more in other relationships where I don't want to seem needy and I don't want to be a burden on people. And because of that, I would tamper or modify those emotions. And so I'm curious for you all, is this something that you've ever struggled with in the past? Okay, so Janoli says, yes, it's such a vulnerable place to be with your partner, especially during an argument. Yes, especially during an argument. And I think that was the difficulty here with a lot of the couples that she was giving examples for, is that they were in the middle of heated arguments. You know, she calls it the polka dance, where they have this same dynamic that keeps playing out. You have the person who is trying to push the one person to give more attention and affection, and the other person who's withdrawing, distancing because of all that pressure and feeling like they won't be able to meet their partner's needs. And when you're in that cycle, it's so hard to say, all I really need right now is some validation from you. I love you and I know that you love me, but I need to know that you want to be with me, that you want to be with me right now. And so I agree with you that during an argument is probably the hardest time to really communicate that. And say, I struggle with it because of a fear of being accepted. I struggle less often now, but it is still a barrier sometimes. I'm glad, Cheyenne, that you've made some progress on that. I think my friendships, I think in my friendships, I'm always the go-to person. So I never ask for the emotional support I need from them. Now that's real. When you're the person that everybody comes to, sometimes it feels like I can't break down. I can't be the person who's needing help because that's going to shift my role with these people that I love. They're dependent on me. I think, I actually think about my dad with that. My dad is the person that he takes care of things. If you go to him, if it's a crisis, he's the one who's got a cool head, almost too laid back, right? And I always think to myself, who do you go to when you're stressed out? And that's something I actually asked him once, and he told me the people that he did go to when he's stressed out, and that gave me a sense of relief. But there's a big part of me that wants to be that person for him. I'm like, I just want to know, I just want to make sure that you have somebody you can go to, because he holds it down for everybody. And so, absolutely, if you're that person, it's super hard to show that weakness because you don't want your friends, family members, your loved ones to feel like they can't come to you because you're not doing well. And really, we all need each other. It's interdependence. And that's another great point that she made in the book, is that especially in the US, we have a tendency to look at people needing other people as problematic. We even talked about that when when I was doing the Twilight breakdown, or if we're looking at a Love is Blind breakdown, which, by the way, guys, I will be doing videos for Love is Blind After the Altar. I saw this coming out in September, and usually I wait until everything's done and do my review. But if you want me to do more like you know, giving reviews live while I'm watching, let me know. But I think that when we often talk about the fact that needing people is a bad thing, that gives people the wrong idea. I think there's a difference between your life means nothing without this person, which is what we were seeing in the Twilight breakdown with Bella. Like, if you literally don't want to live if you're not with this person, that is a problem. That is codependency. But there's nothing wrong with needing people, right? This is the person I go to when I have this issue, or I need a hug, or I need somebody to tell me that it makes sense that I'm feeling this way. There's nothing wrong with that. We need people. And they talk about how even with children, you could feed them and clothe them, but there are children who literally die from not having emotional connection or nurturance. So thinking about those things, and we for some reason think that it's okay for a child to need someone, but an adult shouldn't. And that is very much what this book is arguing against, which is why it's called Hold Me Tight. We are not designed to be surviving in this world alone. Let me read some of your comments. I think, okay, when I was 17, hi, Sierra, haven't seen you in here a little while. When I was 17, I dated a boy, but we never kissed and only held hands 3 times in 7 months. Wow, you guys were really, really pure. Let's see. I felt guilty for wanting more because I thought it wasn't pure. Oh, I didn't read you say that. So I told myself I was okay without it. It became hard to accept my relational needs after that experience. Wow. So that relationship actually affected your relationships going forward. That's interesting to think that. So I'm wondering, was that for spiritual or religious reasons why you all didn't do more than hold hands? Because at 17, obviously the hormones are jumping and things like that. I'm curious if there was a reason beyond just, shyness that informed that decision. Okay, Victoria says, I definitely have. I never wanted to let people know that I needed them or that they are my comfort because I never want that to be held over my head or used as a tool to keep me around. That is fair. And that's the whole thing with connecting with people, that vulnerability of being able to say, I'm giving you the opportunity to hurt me. That is what vulnerability is, right? I'm giving you the opportunity to make me look stupid because I completely trust you, or I'm giving you the opportunity to make me fearful, right? It's those feelings that we don't want to deal with when we are vulnerable with people or vulnerable in situations. We're basically allowing that risk for hopefully a greater reward. And so I absolutely understand why you would be worried about people using that against you, because unfortunately we do see that all the time. If there's another person who is not emotionally mature and they see that they're creating that you have a need for them, they can use that to their advantage. And that's why it's so important that we use discernment as we decide which people in our lives, which people deserve to have that trust and that vulnerability. And sometimes, unfortunately, it takes getting hurt to see that this person is not a fit. But the best thing we can do for ourselves is use that information and stick to it. Once a person shows you that they are not capable of holding you in that space, we can't keep making excuses for them. We have to be comfortable to create the boundaries that are necessary to be able to have healthy relationships, because those kind of people drain you and you don't have the energy to meet somebody else that could be a better fit and make you feel safer. So let's see. Catherine says, I struggled with not wanting to annoy or anger my partner with my emotions. Luckily, my partner is accepting. They want me to share my emotions with them and support me when I do. I love that for you, Catherine. And I actually struggle with that too. I'm the kind of person that very rarely cries. I recently had something happen where I just couldn't even help but cry. And that's how I knew I was really affected, because I'm not a crier, to the point where my husband actually likes to see me cry. I know it's weird, but he only likes to see me cry because he knows that means I'm actually opening up and being more vulnerable with him. We've been together for a long time. We've been together for 13 years. And so for him to feel that way lets you know how closed off and guarded I can be. And so I'm with you, Catherine, where sometimes that partner, they're dying for the opportunity to support you and have you be open with them, and just they want you to tell them things. That was actually one of our first difficulties when we got married. I remember, I can't remember what it was, but there was some sort of situation that happened where I wasn't vocalizing how I felt about this. This is before I was a therapist. And my husband wanted to know so badly, what is it that's bothering you? Like, can you talk to me about this? And I just didn't want to open up about it. And I think at the time, my fear was that once I open up about this, he's going to see how trivial I am, how petty I am. He's going to see that these things that bother me and affect me for days are not that serious. And really, all the information I've gotten from him over the years of us dating should have told me that that wouldn't be the case. But that was still my inherent fear. I grew up with a mother who used to tell me if I had emotions that I was acting and I was being a drama queen. And so that taught me that if I'm feeling heavy emotions, they're probably not sincere or authentic. And so once I did, he got so frustrated about the fact that I wasn't opening up to him. And so there's so much we can learn from this idea that if you allow yourself to be open, you can find out if there's a person out there that not only can tolerate your emotions, but celebrates them, wants to accept you in your entirety, flaws, insecurities, and make you feel wanted. And that is a lot of what this book is about, is just trusting your partner to be able to accept the parts of you that you have become accustomed to hiding. So let's see. Mostly a religious thing. The good girl syndrome was strong. 17-year-old me. You're better than me, Sierra. Let me tell you, I have some stories. Like, now, by high school, I wasn't doing anything, but when I was younger, for an elementary school kid, I was like giving boys little pecks and stuff like that. My dad was very worried, but luckily he ended up not having to worry about too much. So let's see. Okay, Victoria says yes, very that. Glad we're on the same page. A Moon, I used to never cry after 2 years of therapy. I like that I can cry now at cheesy commercials. I love that for you. Now, that's one thing about me. I can cry on a movie, I can cry commercial, like, but it's my real life. Something about my real life, I do not cry. It's the weirdest thing. But I think I'm starting to tap more to my emotions, but it's almost like it takes something traumatic for me to really, really be able to express those emotions. So even though I hate to be in those sad places, I love that I'm accessing my emotions on a deeper level, because it's actually a difficult thing for me. Lady Ray said, I'm a lot more comfortable being vulnerable and asking for my needs in my romantic relationships versus my familiar or platonic. I've been trying to shift the way my loved ones see me, the strong one. Yeah, that's hard. That is really hard. But I'm glad that you are at least comfortable in those romantic spaces, right? Because we need somebody that is going to be the person to hold us. And if it's going to be anybody, let it be the person we are choosing to spend our time with, our life with in some cases. I have struggled with something similar to Catherine. I have tried in the past to conceal my emotions and control my reactions with my partner because he would distance himself when I get emotional. Well, then, Leslie, if you didn't read this book, I highly recommend you and your partner read this book, because she spends a lot of time talking about that, where you have the one partner who is literally reaching out and begging for some emotional assurance, and the other partner who is distancing themselves, and she explains why. And I think she does a great job in talking about the fact that some people are not confident in meeting a person's emotional needs. They don't believe that they can, so the only way that they can respond to it is by distancing themselves, so that you can't see how ill-equipped they are to provide you with that support, when in reality they are equipped to do it. They just don't believe in themselves. So it's really an insecurity on their end that they're projecting on you, because now you feel insecure about having the emotions in the first place. But I think she does a great job talking about that. She spends most of the book talking about that dynamic. Let's see, all of that. I have struggled. Some people in my life have developed a learned behavior of repeatedly hurting me and taking advantage of my kindness and unconditional love. I'm so sorry that you're dealing with that, Anandi, and I'm hoping that you have another subset of people in your life that don't do that. And if not, I'm hoping that you meet those people that you can have a stronger bond with. Leslie, we're currently in therapy working on our relationship, and your videos have helped a lot too. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Anytime couples especially tell me that my videos have helped them in any way with communication or recovering from infidelity or other trust breaches, that really warms my heart, because that's the thing that brought me into marriage and family therapy in the first place, is a love for couples and knowing that if our romantic relationships are strong, our lives are a lot better. As a matter of fact, they had a crazy statistic in this book, and I shared it. I always think I don't even have any notes on this book, and then I have so many notes. But basically, they said that they found that people who have been diagnosed with congestive heart failure have, was it 4 times higher likelihood of surviving? It was some crazy statistic if they're in a loving, satisfying relationship versus not. And my mom had congestive heart failure. And so that's why that really stood out to me. She passed away from it. And it really made me think about, the importance of those love relationships, and how even physiologically we have so much that's dependent on feeling securely attached. Let's see. Janoli, I noticed this recently, but I always think my partner will respond negatively, like I already know what he's going to say or how he's going to respond. I was always wrong. Yes, she talks about that too. And I always think of that. Here's the thing about this book. She talks about a lot of these things as if it's new information, and maybe at the time when she was coming up with it, maybe it was. But now I just feel like there's so much better language. I personally prefer John Gottman's approach to helping couples, because I think that his books are organized a bit better, and like I know where I am, whereas with her book I'm like, is this a new topic or is this the same topic? But she does talk about this. But what you're talking about, I think of the cognitive distortion we call mind reading, where we just assume that we know what a person is thinking or what they're going to do, as if we're a psychic. And that is something that I work a lot with my couples in breaking down that dynamic, because I'll ask them a question, and then you have the one partner who I didn't ask the question to answering for the other partner. And I'm like, what? That wasn't a question for you, but they just think they're so confident in that they already know what they're going to say, that nothing's going to change. But if you really believe that nothing's going to change, then why are you still in the relationship, right? There's got to be a part of us that knows that something could change, and we have to stay open to that. I was just challenging one of my clients on that yesterday, because they were ironically talking about their partner, and they feel like their partner, if they know something about you, they're just going to see that view of you for the rest of your life. It's never going to change. And so, well, the interesting thing about what you're saying is that you see your partner that way, and you don't think they can change, and that they can't have a flexible mindset about other people. So it's kind of ironic, but this is a very common dynamic that we see with couples. Okay, let's see. When I may walk out on them briefly after huge trust breaches, especially when I've taken major leaps of faith that I've never before, just because I always come back because I have faith. Yeah, it's hard when you have faith that somebody can be better and grow, because people they can grow, right? But I'm the kind of person where if a person is growing, I want them to approach me, come back to me, talk to me about the growth that you've experienced, and tell me, how can I help support this growth? Like, have you identified your triggers? What should I avoid? What communication tactics are working better for you now than in the past? Because if I just try to come back, test out the waters, and I come back upon the same things that made me not want to be friends with that person or involved with that person anymore, that's going to make me feel really dejected and question my own ability to know if a person is a good fit for my life. If I wait for them to come back to me and they can communicate to me the changes and what I can do to help support those changes, I feel more comfortable taking that leap of faith with them. So you might just want to be a little more communicative with them in terms of saying, you know, because of our history, I'm not comfortable really moving forward with this relationship right now. But if you are working on yourself as I'm working on myself too, and you think that something comes about that would help our relationship improve in the future, please let me know. But you can't always take that risk, because sometimes you end up getting burnt out going back over and over again due to having faith in people who really aren't trying to change. Let's see. Yes, a good montage definitely does make me cry. Indo is my husband, for those of you who don't know. Let's see. He was supportive every time. I just didn't give him the chance. That's right, Janoli. I mean, I can totally relate to that. You think that this person is going to disappoint you, and then they actually don't disappoint you, and it's your own projections and insecurities. So I love that you were able to realize that. Have you watched The Ultimatum season 2? Let's talk about this. Every day I get messages about The Ultimatum season 2. So some of you may have found me during season 4 of Love is Blind and not season 3. During season 3, that's when they first announced The Perfect Match and The Ultimatum. And for both of those, I was like, I don't think I want to review those shows. Love is Blind is already like getting to the point where I'm like, Are you guys really on here trying to find a soulmate? That's what attracts me to that show. Like the first season, I think was a much better show because nobody knew about it. But as you realize you can get clout, it's very hard to discern who is there for a true love match and who's there for popularity. Um, the ultimatum, I really did not like the concept of the show. Perfect Match, of course, did not like the concept. But I'm getting so many people who are asking me to specifically look at and review season 2. I'll give it a watch and see. But it's just the concept overall, the idea that you will bring someone you've been dating for a long time and you guys are going to swap partners, and it doesn't sound like a good premise to me for like real love matches. But people are telling me no, it's actually, I know it's how it sounds, but it's better. So I will give it a watch. I haven't even watched it, but I will give it a watch. A lot of people are telling me to do that every day, so I will give it a watch. I can't promise I'll do a breakdown, but if I do see some good stuff there, I will break it down. Okay, let's see, page 25. I just got a relationship with the guy who started to distance himself from me. He told me he had a hard time making connections because he was bullied as a kid. That's fair. I'm glad he was able to open up to that. The therapist had me read the book with an abusive partner. Oh, how messed up is that? Went to the bookstore and sat there and read the whole book on my own to get away from the abuser. Did the therapist know that it was an abusive relationship? That's what I'm wondering. Because really, couples therapy is not uh, recommended for abusive relationships. You're right. I do remember you saying that it can be a bit overly produced. Yes, it's a little hard. Oh wow, watching Love and Hip Hop will get this book. You're watching Love and Hip Hop? I love that show. I haven't watched it in years because VH1 makes it hard to watch it streaming. But back when it was just when I had time back in college, that was my show. My husband was like, "I'd give you an ultimatum, then you should leave." Right? If I have to give you an ultimatum, I just don't understand the concept of that show. I think season 2 is interesting because it is a rare show focused on queer love. And I think that's the reason why people want me to break it down, is because it's actually some queer representation on these dating shows. I just wish that it was a show like Love is Blind or something where it wasn't like the drama is inherent in the premise. So I hate that, that is the only representation right now. But I will give it a watch because I'm hearing that there might be some good things that I could break down in there. And later she say she couldn't be in the same sessions because he gaslit me. Wow. 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 Thank you, Let's K. Okay. So let me read some more of these. You guys are the chat is on fire. It's hard to keep up. I'm the kind of person, I don't like to miss any of your messages while we're still like a smaller group where I can, but I know that I should read some of my things here. Oh, here's the statistic. In men and women with congestive heart failure, the state of the patient's marriage is as good a predictor of survival after 4 years as the severity of the symptoms and degree of impairment. That is crazy to me. That is crazy. Let's see. Oh, this was another super interesting statistic. What do you guys think about this? In 1939, women ranked love fifth as a factor in choosing a mate. By the 1990s, it topped the list for both men and women. So, one of the discussion questions that I put in on our Goodreads page, and Dosi has a link pinned if you want to join that and join in our conversations between these lives. I was asking, do you guys think that love, because this book came out in 2007, 2008, do you think that romantic love is as important today as it was back in 2007, 2008? Because what she's saying here is that in 1939, love ranked as the fifth factor. And then by the 90s, it topped the list. Do you guys think it tops the list today? Do you think when we talk about overall life satisfaction, that love is one of the number one factors for people, for most people? I kind of think that yeah, well, of course, because women had to rely on men to be supported, sadly. True. That is definitely a factor. But I think that today, I think it probably would rank not as high, only because as a society, I see us moving toward that, back to that idea of financial security should be more important than romantic security. And truly no judgment on that. I think that in our economy, it makes a lot of sense why people are like, y'all are prioritizing being in love with someone, and then you end up living this broke life and being stressed all the time. And that's real, right? So I'm wondering if that is still the statistic today. I just don't know, especially if you look at it by generations, like Gen Z. Like my clients I talk to, Gen Z, like they are not talking to me about people they're trying to be in relationships with, anything. Like they're literally, their focus is their mental health and trying to develop some independent living skills in this economy. We're not like, if I was in therapy when I was 16, 17, I would literally be talking about boys probably 70% of the time. And that is not what they're talking to me about at all. And so I'm wondering if that statistic really still stands today, if it really tops the list. Let's see. No, I think money, security, and commitment are more important. I think that love itself, I can see it ranking higher just because we are getting more isolated and the partner becomes a focus for a lot of relationships. Love is a huge factor for me, but I don't think that it is for a lot of people. I remember taking a class in college where we all had to pick an emotion to focus. I was the only one who chose love. That's so interesting, Janoli. I wouldn't, what were some of the other emotions that were top in that class? That's interesting. I think it depends on the person. Some people are suckers for love, and that's number one. I'm a sucker for love, and that's definitely number one for me. It's hard to be in love when you're struggling to survive. So I understand not trying to think about love right now. Absolutely. I agree, Cheyenne. I think that's why I think that it's really interesting to just think about how the economy plays such a big factor in even like marriage statistics. And now people are like, I'm trying to be comfortable. Like they're like, it's not easy to buy a house like it was in the 90s. It's not easy to use your degree and get a job like it was back then. And I really, I'm not looking at it with any shade. I truly can understand why people would have a hard time prioritizing love. I just don't know if it's at the top of the list for men or women now. Okay. So here is the core of this book, right? So she talks about the fact that we are losing connection in our society, but it's so important to still remain connected. She said, underneath all the distress, partners are asking each other, can I count on you? Depend on you? Are you there for me? Will you respond to me when I need, when I call? Do I matter to you? Am I valued and accepted by you? Do you need me and rely on me? And I think that's an interesting one to end on, is that a lot of us, we have to feel needed to feel secure. If we don't feel needed, we feel insecure in our relationships. And I really question sometimes how healthy that is, because I have a lot of clients who will feel like their worth in a relationship is based on what they can provide people with, even friendships. They'll be so distraught because they gave a friend a suggestion and the friend didn't take that suggestion. And they're like, well, that means that they don't value my input. That means they don't think that I have anything worth saying. I'm like, no, they might have just found a different option, but they're panicking because what they're hearing is, if you can find all this information without me, you don't need me. And if you don't need me, then this relationship is in jeopardy. And it's such a disastrous way of thinking. But I think that that desire to be needed is the core for a lot of us. I'm wondering for you guys, is that something that's important to you? Think about your most significant relationship in your life. Is it important to you to feel needed by that person? Not just wanted, but needed. Let's see. People trying to figure out how to pay for groceries. So good. I don't think I could ever sacrifice love. I couldn't sleep in the same bed with someone that I don't love. You know, it's a lot of people out here that can, though. It's a lot of people out here who can. True. Yeah, codependence, that can be a result of depending on someone. Let's see. Hi, Annie. Some people chose emotions like grief, guilt, shame, desire, anger. Wow, most of them are negative. It was a wide range of emotions we could choose from, but many students pick the same emotion. Interesting. My boyfriend told me that he sees where I bring value to his life. I feel like that is the number one goal of a partner that is serious. That's literally the point of partnering. He needs me and wants me. See, I don't know. Is that the point of partnering? The wants part I understand, right? Because, for example, my husband is extremely self sufficient. He thinks he needs me, but really, I don't think he really needs me. I don't feel like he needs me. I think that he really could live life and do everything on his own and be good. I mean, he does the cooking, he cleans great. He, takes care of making sure the bills are paid in terms of like make sure they're paid. We both contribute to the household. He looks after the cars. Like, I'm like, really, if I wasn't here, I think he would survive and thrive just fine. He thinks he needs me, but I think he just wants me. And that doesn't make me feel insecure in the relationship. The fact that I don't think he needs me, I just think he wants me. Let's see. What else? It's logic and confusing at the time. Hey, Endo, I just subscribed. Oh, thank you for subscribing, Annie. Let's see. I also think the difference between a need versus a want. Yes, I agree, Diamond. I definitely think there. Let's see. Diamond says, I don't want to be needed. I want to be wanted, chosen. Yeah, I think for me, that's the most important too. I think it's important to, Cheyenne says, I think it's important to be needed. When my child acts out, I do a chore with him and his behaviors tend to go away. I recognize a partner can live without me and same with me, yet there is a difference. Kenya says, is God love? Really exactly me. Neither. I can't sleep in the bed. Oh, is that all a name? Oh, you were at mentioning someone. Sorry. I can't sleep in the bed with someone I don't love. What a waste of a human. Let's see. Your husband is a gem. Thank you, Janelle. I think the same. I mean, I really think I lucked out with him. I see that too with your hubby by what you are saying. And Dosey may not need you, but we sure do. Oh, Sierra, and I need you. I've been missing you in these lives. Not need, he wants you. Yeah, I think he wants me, but I don't know. You're here, babe. What are your thoughts? Do you think you need me or do you think you want me? You think you need me? But yeah, for what? Come, you want to come? You don't want to come over. He's very particular about his how he comes on screen. Speak up though if you're gonna talk from over there.
Oh, it's weird because I'm hearing it on my thing.
Oh, just take it out. Yeah.
First of all, since I was doing like the chest up, I kind of missed a little bit of it.
So oh, so just
like, what y'all,
no, but, just speak loudly because they're not going to be able to hear you.
Okay, well, yeah, I just feel like I need you because I feel like you help me out with a lot of things. I don't know. I guess it's like my safe space, So that's what I need, and I feel like that's what's really important for me from you, like. So like that, just that in itself, just I feel like the things that I lack, you really exceed that. So I feel like that's one thing we benefit from each other. That's what I love about. So I think that's like a need, and also it makes me better. I mean, a lot of the skills I also pick up from you, so it helps me improve as well. But yeah. So
yeah. Okay. So for him, he says it's a need. I don't know if y'all can really hear him. And Dosie's kind of soft spoken, so that was him using his outside voice. For me, I definitely feel like I need him, but I just feel like he's extremely self-sufficient. But he says he needs me as a safe space, and that for him that is a need. So let's see. Sorry, you guys. I'm kind of coming off of a cold, so hopefully my voice doesn't sound too weird. I think so many things work contrary. Oh, oops, I lost you guys. So many chats in here. Uh-oh. Okay, I agree. I think so. Oh, yeah. I think so many things work contrary to what we think is logical. I think it should bring you joy to do things for each other and make sure you're both taken care of. You should also want to be with each other. I think that's valuable in a relationship. Yes, I agree with that, Lilo E. Stitch. Somebody actually requested that I break down Lilo and Stitch on the channel, and I think I would love to do that. But yes, I think that wanting to be with each other is so important. And more specifically, communicating that you want to be with each other. I think that's one of the bigger focuses in this book is that the partners actually want to be together. They love each other. They want to be what each other needs, but they don't know how to ask for what they need. And they don't know, they're not confident they can provide each other with that. So just making sure that your partner knows that you want them around and you're excited to spend time with them. And that she was even talking about how a lot of people misconstrue the need or want for sex as, just as a limiting experience or connection with the partner. And she talks about how for a lot of men, sex is the only time they really get long lasting or effective touches. And that's why they crave it because, in most cultures, men aren't really touching other men without it being considered something that is not right. Whereas women, we can hold hands, hug, kiss on the cheek, whatever. And so she says a lot of men are touch deprived, and that's why they crave so much sex. And the men in the book were saying, like, it's not really sex that I want. It's just like I want closeness and I don't know how to ask for that. And so feeling needed and wanted by your partner, I agree, is extremely important. Jasmine says capitalism thrives off creating codependent relationships with boss and employees where the boss values production. Being more productive equals higher value as a person. This is fueled by how much you make. True. Annie says, I was in an abusive relationship. I left him. I don't know what is normal anymore. I don't know how to put boundaries anymore. It's strange. And she talks about dealing with trauma in relationships. That I think was another great part of this book when she talks about the trauma element. Is that, let me just skip down to that part actually, is that changes the outlook of an entire relationship. The name of that chapter is Healing Traumatic Wounds: The Power of Love. She talks about when there was an example of somebody who had gone through a traumatic experience in war, and he was basically telling his wife, like, if you really knew the choices I made when I was deployed, you wouldn't want to be with me. And I hear that so much. I mean, I have clients who might have shopping addictions, or they might have other like pleasure seeking activities like compulsory masturbatory um, behaviors, things like that, where they're hiding parts of their self from people that they love, their partners. And they have this thought right here: revealing just enough to check out your worst fear, that no one can love you. And it's that idea that if I were to tell you everything I've been through, all the choices I've made, you would never want to be with me. That limits us. That creates a barrier in our relationships. That prevents us from really connecting with our partners because they only know a fraction of who we are. And they might be completely capable of loving you in all of your flaws, all of the past, your insecurities, but you're not giving them a chance. So you don't really believe that love. You don't buy into their love. Why? Because you know that you're keeping a big secret from them, and you feel that if they truly knew that secret, they wouldn't love you anymore. So that cheapens everything, right? She said the biggest sticking point in relationship problems, in my opinion, she's talking about when it comes to trauma, is the feeling of shame that afflicts survivors. So when you talk about, you don't know what's normal anymore, Annie, you don't know how to establish boundaries anymore. A lot of that might be tied to shame that you experienced as whatever happened in that last relationship. The thing about abuse is, even though the person who should really feel ashamed is the abuser, a lot of times as the victims, we're the ones that walk away with all the shame and embarrassment. and we feel stupid. Like we feel like, why did I stay there? Or, clearly I don't have any self-worth. And that doesn't have to be the case, and even if it was the case, it doesn't have to be the case going forward. But that shame can really get in the way of connecting going forward. So I would encourage you, if there's anything left there, to kind of go through the process of trying to forgive yourself for whatever things you may feel make you unworthy of having the type of relationship that you want. Let's see. Rosalind said, just because you can do everything on your own doesn't mean it isn't more enjoyable, easier with a partner. Absolutely. I agree with that. I mean, it's nice to be interdependent, not necessarily codependent, but interdependent. It's nice to know you got me and I got you. I could survive on my own, but you're right. It's a lot easier and more enjoyable with you. For me, being wanted has always been based on my physical appearance. So it means less to me to be wanted. Interesting. That, you know what? I can totally see that. Because to be wanted, I can see that interpretation of somebody's wanting you sexually. But I think also your presence can be wanted, your skills can be wanted. And I distinguish wanted from needed, because needed means that this person can't do these things without you. And I think that creates possibly an unhealthy dynamic. Whereas wanted means that maybe they can do it, but they really value the way that you can do it or the skill set that you bring. But I can definitely understand why you would interpret wanted that way. Let's see. Okay. Oh gosh. You guys are just so awesome in this chat. Please respond to each other too, because I feel like every time I think I'm catching up, I'm actually behind. But I keep it coming. It really warms my heart to see you guys being so active and engaged in the chat. Because every time, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Every time it's time for one of these book club lives, I'm always like, why am I still doing this? Nobody cares. Nobody cares about this. And really, I think if nothing else, it gives me an opportunity to just talk with you guys, in sync. I can see what you're saying and respond to it right here versus trying to do a comment or doing a video in response to a comment. And I love being able to talk with you guys live. So this gives me, this is the thing that makes me really happy. And each month I keep doing it. We're going to try the 2 months thing and see how it is to do every other month. And for those who are just joining, our next book will be The Hunger Games, because I've never read it. But people want me to break it down. And so that'll be our next book that we'll be doing on October 24th. Okay, so the other thing I definitely want to make sure we talked about before we ended was about sex. So, conversation 6, I guess let me read to you guys the different conversations in here. One of them I didn't even highlight anything. But conversation 1 is recognizing the demon dialogues. That's the dynamic we talked about, the pursuer distancer. Conversation 2 is finding the raw spots. So figuring out what are your triggers. Like for me, like I said, if one of my raw spots is my mom telling me that if I had big emotion, I was acting, I was pretending. So if I feel like a person is either taking my emotions too seriously or is completely invalidating them, both of those are raw spots for me that will make me be triggered and act in a way that's not as in alignment with my evolved self as I would like it to be. Conversation 4, which is for the book, I know I skipped 3. I don't know what that one is. I have to go back. Is Hold Me Tight. And those are using language like it's scary and I'm here. Or she talks about how when we are hugging people or touch close by people that we love, it releases oxytocin. And that's produced only by mammals, and it's a state of contented bliss. It creates a cascade of pleasure, comfort, and calm. So just cuddling with your person produces oxytocin. So it's like free drugs, right? Like, who doesn't want to feel high and feel that sense of pleasure? Conversation 5 was forgiving injuries. Conversation 6 is bonding through sex and touch. So this is what I wanted to talk about. 3 kinds of sex she talks about is sealed off sex. That is sex where you're just wanting to reduce some sexual tension and achieve orgasm and feel good about, your sexual prowess. She says this is the type of sex that a lot of men tend toward, and I know that that's very heteronormative. just stick with me here because this is what the book is talking about. But she says a lot of men tend toward this type of sex, which is, it's sealed off in that you have one goal pretty much is orgasm. You're just looking for pleasure. And this kind of impersonal sex is toxic in a love relationship because one partner will end up feeling used and objectified. Then this next type of sex, she says, the sex that a lot of women tend to do when they're feeling those attachment insecurities, which is solace sex. That's when we are seeking reassurance that we are valued and desired. So you are using sex as a way of feeling validated. And I've actually heard people say this, which was so surprising to me that people I know that one of the reasons they like to have sex is because that's the only time they feel connected to their partner. I guess that's when their partner is the most vulnerable with them, like seeing them completely naked and like making noises and stuff like that, like basically not having control. All of those things make them feel more connected to their partner. But what you're really using sex for, and that at that point, is you're trying to soothe some of your attachment wounds, the distance that you feel from that partner in your regular daily life with them. You're trying to solve that with sex. And so she says the main emotion directing the sexual dance there is anxiety. This was really interesting. She said North Americans are among the world's least tactile people and suffer from touch hunger. In children, a lack of touch, of holding and caressing, seems to slow the growth of the brain and the development of emotional intelligence. That is the ability to organize emotions. So, just as children need to have those assurances emotionally, so do adults. We still need that. We have some idea that kids need more than we do, and it's just not the case. She says, whenever my female clients complain that men are obsessed with sex, I would be too, I say, if sex were the only place apart from the football field where I ever got touched or held, like I just talked about. And then she talks about the best type of sex, which is is it synchrony? I think it's synchrony sex. And that's the emotional openness and responsiveness. Tender touch and erotic exploration, they all come together. And this was a very interesting statistic that married partners who have spent years together and built up emotional security have more frequent and more satisfying sex than non married folks. Now, that was very surprising to me because if you look at shows like Sex in the City, I just have this idea that people who are, out here casually having sex are probably just having like crazy banging sex, like no emotions attached. So I'm curious, is that a surprising finding for you guys that people who are married are having more satisfying sex and more frequently having sex? That is very surprising to me because you always see the stereotype of married couples like not having sex anymore. And basically, if you see a couple that's really affectionate, they're probably not married yet. That's the idea that we have in our society. So I'm just curious if you guys find that surprising. And he said sex is very important. Sex is very important with intimacy and the vulnerability that come with it. Oh, this video on Steph needs more viewers. Thank you, A Moon. But I do love when we have these smaller, because when I do my bigger videos, obviously we have a lot more people in the instant chat and I'm talking about something very specific. But I love this smaller, more intimate community where I can read everyone and respond to it. Yes, I agree with that completely, Annie, about the vulnerability that comes with it. One thing she talks about is that when you have a good emotional connection in your relationships, that your sex is better because you can tell people what you want. Whereas when you're in a relationship that's full of insecurities, telling somebody what you want might be a source of shame for you because maybe there's some things you want to play around with that might be looked down upon, or maybe you are worried that you might ask for those things and not be able to receive them. Maybe your partner can't give you those things, or you don't know how to communicate those things, especially in the moment. Like if your partner is touching you in a certain way, you're like, oh, that doesn't feel good, or moving their hand away. A lot of people have a hard time with that if that emotional bond is not secure. Let's see. Let's be real, more people need this as more people benefit in healing their wounds, yet also growth and recognition, less harmful behaviors to themselves or others. Thank you, Diamond. Yes, I used to feel so used. My ex didn't understand it. Yeah, when you're having that sex with just one end goal in mind, it definitely, you can feel like an object. Lady Ray says, my trigger is when my partner isn't engaging in convo with me. I'm the youngest child and felt voiceless. So not engaging with me makes me feel foolish for even speaking. I love that you have that awareness, and I hope that you've been able to communicate that to your partner. The awareness is key. Like, if as soon as you can say, this is why I feel this way. So it's not just about you, it's about what I experienced growing up. I think it puts your partner's defenses down a little bit, hopefully, especially if you can communicate it to them, not in the heat of a moment when they're doing it, but outside of that moment, and say, hey, I just want to reflect a little bit on something that happened, yesterday, and tell you I've been thinking about it and I have more insight into why that bothers me so much. And I feel like, the good partners, the best partners, the ones who are interested in improving will be able to say, oh, that makes sense to me. I can't fix change overnight, but at least I can understand why that bothered you so much. Let's see. Can we talk about the orgasm gap too between heterosexual and non-heterosexual couples? Why is it? I don't know about the orgasm gap between heterosexual and non-heterosexual couples. So please do educate us, Jasmine. I know about the orgasm gap between men and women, but I don't know about the orgasm gap between heterosexual and non-heterosexual. Can you or someone in the chat quickly summarize the 3 types of sex again? Sure, I can do it. So the first type of sex is the sealed off sex. That's all about the orgasm, and that's where a person ends up feeling objectified. The next type of sex is called solace sex. That is where you're using sex as a way of soothing your own anxiety about your insecurities in the relationship. And this is typically what heteronormative women do when they're in a relationship that is not emotionally fulfilling or secure. And then the last one, the one that we want, is the synchrony sex. That's one that has emotional openness, responsiveness, tender touch, and erotic exploration. So hopefully that was helpful. Okay. Oh, hi, Mamusu. So good to have you in here. I'm glad you were able to catch it. Oh, from France. We were just in France back in June, so a couple months ago, and we had, huh? Oh, she said bonjour. We had a great time. Love your country. I realized I was promiscuous in my early 20s because I was touch deprived and seeking intimacy that sex brings. I'm 2.5 years abstinent and waiting for marriage. I love that you were able to make that choice for yourself after recognizing the patterns and the reason for that pattern. My ex used the lack of sex and intimacy to manipulate me. I was super confused. Then I felt sick when he was touching me. I'm so glad that's your ex, Annie, because it sounds like you were dealing with a lot in that relationship. Okay, you guys. So just tuning in, our rewatch for this topic about sex is so necessary. Hi, Talk Amarachi. I hope I'm saying everybody's name right, but you guys, we're at the end of time. I usually try to do this for an hour, but this. I'm not gonna do one this time because I feel like who cares? People probably don't even care about this book, but you guys are really amazing. All of the chats, the stories you're sharing, that means the world to me. I love we care. Oh, what do you mean? What do you care about, Lady Ray? Um, you guys are just awesome. I think that these things are the things that keep me motivated and energized in the channel. Is just being able to connect with you guys, like, not just people commenting on videos, which is amazing too, but people that I'm actually having a conversation with right now. And one thing that I'm thinking about doing is, if some of you might be interested in it being a part of the live, because I think YouTube has it now where you can do, you can invite somebody into your live, or even we could do it through another platform. I'm thinking about like inviting some of you guys to be my co-host. So if you read the book, and you're in the Goodreads book club and you're interested in being a co-host, let me know. And we could be in here chatting it up, you and me, reading the chats together. I think that would be a really cool way to start integrating you guys into the channel a little bit more. Yes, absolutely. Start a panel discussion. Okay. I love this in school to be an LMFT. Oh, I love that, Jasmine. That's awesome. Love seeing people who are becoming LMFTs, want our field to grow. Hi from Toronto, Canada. Just found your channel a couple days ago. Been binging your content. Hi, Grand Amber. I'm so glad that you found it. We want to go to Canada. And so that is definitely on our list. I can't believe the places we've gone and we haven't gone just up north to Canada. You could also do a Discord and you can call people easier. Okay, that's good to know. Thanks, Diamond. Um, it's nice to meet people who understand, or you could just come to Utah. Utah is on my list, actually. I've seen some of the beautiful mountain ranges. Maybe, Sierra, the next time you're in a play or something, I would love to come see you. I was like, I wanted to come to your other show, but then I realized you were in Utah, not in Georgia. So I need a little heads up. Let's see. Hope you all find something to smile at today. Yes, great note to end it on, Anandi. You guys all made me smile today, so thank you so much for joining. And remember, our next book will be Hunger Games. Our next meeting will be October 24th. So you've got about 2 months to get through that one. And then, we'll be able to kind of get some ideas together for the next video where I'll be breaking down Hunger Games with the books. Stay tuned for the rest of the Twilight series, as well as Love is Blind is coming up as well. You guys are awesome. I love you so much. Have a good one.